Hello and welcome to the 14th episode of the News Not Shown on TV, which is also the fourth and final episode about New Zealand, and this is going to be about the Pakeha and Maori, beginning with the word Pakeha.
Now, did you hear about that scrap in Christchurch over the weekend over the word Pakeha, with one woman describing it as a racist term?
Well, it got us thinking, what does Pakeha actually mean? Now, over the years, I've read a few unscientific stuff, comments, translations like flea and white pig. So we thought it might be time to set Te Reo chords straight. Here's Tamati Rimini Sprout.
Pakeha, a simple word causing a lot of controversy. But what do people think it means?
I understand that it means, directly translates to pigskin.
When it's all the base, oh, here comes the Pakeha, white sail.
So where do these theories come from?
I don't know, I read it somewhere.
Oh, that's what I was told by my mammy.
Seems to be a lot of confusion, so I decided to talk to this guy, Maori language expert Mrs. Scotty Morrison, to clear out what Pakeha, the word, actually means.
From what I know, it comes from Pakeha, which was an ancient term used in some of our ancient karakia to describe our tūrehu or our fairy people who were of light skin.
Does it mean white pig?
No.
And so there we see the politically correct version of history being taught on our news, saying that the name Pakeha doesn't mean white pig, when many New Zealanders believe that it does mean that. And when you look at the name Pakeha, you see that the name Paki refers to an adult person, and the name Ha refers to something that smells or tastes nice. And so the literal meaning of the word Pakeha is a white person who smells or tastes nice. And so this concept is slightly offensive because it goes back to the times of cannibalism of the Maoris, when they used to eat people. And we know that when Captain Cook arrived there on Cook's Beach, he brought with him some feral pigs which were released into the wild for the first time. And so these became known as the Captain Cookers. And that also, through the sailors and whalers, the Maoris adopted a pig called the kuni, named after being fat and round, which is a domestic pig. And so around this time of Captain Cook, we know that the Maoris were becoming accustomed to eating pork and pig meat. And so when they cook the pork, they smelt this fragrant, sweet flavour, and the same happens when you cook a white man, apparently. And so that's how the name white pig came into being. And also we know that Captain Cook, when he arrived there in Cook's Beach, the Maoris allegedly said to him, Puki Pakeha, which in Puki means ship, and so Puki Pakeha means men who taste nice who arrived in a ship. And so this means that the Maoris already knew about white people and eating white people and coming against them, and that's because, of course, there's some fair-skinned Maoris living in New Zealand at that time.
We've always believed, from the history that was handed down by Piki Te Piki Kōtuku, our great-great-grandfather, that we came from this ancient place outside of Egypt, named ancient Persia. Today it is named Iran or Iran, whichever way you want to say it. Well, when I told my family, they were proud when I told them that they came from ancient Persia. Some of them said, oh, are we Arabs? I said, well, actually, we'd be described as being Egyptian more than Arabs. There they are. Hello. This is only some of them. I got 64 together. Yeah, that's grandchildren, greats and great-greats. We're quite proud of it. Oh, gosh, we really are. This is my mum. Her name was Tangi Maria Te Reo Shipwrecks. My mother was the one that gave me the history, and she wanted us to know just who we were and who we are. This is my dad, Hawani James Ham. His mother was a Waratini, and the Waratini are the blue-eyed Ngāti Hotu of Whakatane. This was my husband, Iki Whenua Mātāmua, who passed away in 2007. He is of Tūhoe descent, and they too are of Ngāti Hotu. I have here a photograph of my grandmother and my grandfather, Te Reo Shipwrecks. And my grandmother was red-headed, and she had the green eyes. and she was a very, very fair lady. This photograph is of Janet. Of my 10 children, she was the only one that really resembled me. And she is the only one of my 10 children that had the green eyes. But apart from that, a lot of my grandchildren do too.
We couldn't believe our eyes when we first saw Monica's family. Right in front of us was a living representation of the green-eyed, golden-haired people we've been looking for. They're not just fairy folk of the forest, or mythical beings. They are real. We wonder what motivated Monica to publish her story.
Well, in 2006, I was at the hearings, and this witness was saying that we were no more, that Ngāti Hotu had been wiped out, eaten out. It was quite hurtful hearing this story, and I was sitting there and I thought, oh, hell with this. I'm going to take this through the Waitangi Tribunal and prove that we still exist. And I gave my history, and the judge at the time, which was Judge Wainwright, she put it on the internet and it went worldwide, and there was a lot of hits came back from everywhere who knew of the people of Ngāti Hotu. And it was seen by the E-Local magazine, who took up the story.
And so you might ask, where is the archaeological evidence supporting the idea that white people were living in New Zealand long before the Maoris arrived here around 1350 AD at the earliest? And the answer to that question is found in the stone structures that are found around the place. And for example, here we see a Stonehenge in Northland, and nearby to that there is this what is called a Cronus stone, and on a tributary going into the Hokianga Harbour we see this pillar which has a map of the North Island on one side and of the South Island on the other side, and when you look at the North Island you see Lake Taupo there in the middle. And when you look at the accuracy of this map compared to the accuracy of the map that Captain Cook drew with his astrolabe, you'd have to conclude that the people that drew this first map also had an astrolabe, which is a sophisticated instrument from the Northern Hemisphere. And also we see, for example, these stone walls south of the Hokianga, and some people believe that these stone walls in one place actually spell out the word Yahweh. And when you look further down you see these stone walls at the Kaipara Harbour and also at Waitara, and across at the Kaimanawa walls there near Lake Taupo. And there's also other evidence in the form of skeletons that have been found around the place. So let's have a look now at the skeletons of white people that have been found in caves around the North Island, particularly in Northland.
This is one of the caves that had all the skeletons of the Te Reo Waitaha people stacked in. There were skulls and skeletons all around here. In 1861, Robinson's bone mill come up from Onehunga and gathered them all up, paid all the workers threepence a sack to grind up as bone dust fertiliser. And they all shipped out of Te Kopuru here. The Armed Constabulary were there, and they counted these skulls in each sack, and they estimate at least 60,000 skeletons were recovered from just this one region. And fortunately, they didn't get them all. There's a couple of caves with these fellows in. At the Te Reo, the coffin's about 5 foot long, made out of New Zealand kauri. I was very keen to get DNA and everything done on, you know, who were these people, where'd they come from. And I was at a conference some years ago in Rotorua, and there was a forensic pathologist from England. I was talking to him about them, and he said, oh, I've got a few days after the conference, I'll come up. So he spent 3 days with me. I took him around these various sites, and he examined these. There's just one of the many sites. I took him to about 5 different sites. Small people? Oh yeah, about 4 foot, 4'3". And you know, well, you see the skeletons, he examined them all, measured them, and he took Naitooth to England. And 18 months later, he says, no, those are ancient Celtic people.
living in Wales 3,500 years ago. This is where they originated from.
This is not the only genetic information that links the fair-skinned Maori to the Celts. Jean Dosset did a study on the redheads of Easter Island and found that their DNA was very close to the Basque and Welsh populations of ancient Europe.
And so all the skeletons that have been found around New Zealand belong to a pre-Maori period, and the Maoris referred to these people as the fairy people, but we know they're not really a mythical fairy people at all, that they were white people that lived here before the Maoris arrived. And in some parts of the country they're referred to as the Te Reo, and in other parts they're referred to as the Padapai Rihi, and also other names. And there's also evidence of other civilizations that are non-Maori civilizations coming to New Zealand, such as this mast that's found on the 90-mile beach of a Chinese junket. And also we see this helmet that was found in the harbour in Wellington, which is a Spanish helmet, and many people attribute this to the voyages of Juan Fernandez in 1572 AD. But the names Maori and Pakeha are names that arose during the colonisation period of New Zealand.
Pakeha, one of those labels that didn't exist before Pakeha, but then nor did the label Maori.
We weren't Maori, we've only been Maori since the arrival of Pakeha. I wouldn't say they have negative connotations, but I would understand if people felt that they were offended by it. But I think once you talk to people who understand the concepts of Maori and Pakeha, they can be viewed in a positive light.
And so what they're saying there is that the name Pakeha was given to white people by the Maoris, and the name Maori was given to them by the white people. But when you look in the Maori dictionary, it tells you that the name Maori means common or ordinary person, when really we would have never named the Maori ordinary or common people, but rather we would have named them after their ancestor and of their demigod Maui. And so that's where the name Maori comes from. It is a derivative of the word Maui, the people of Maui.